Boom. It's good to be here, man. I love y'all to death. So I got a quick one. It kind of segues really well, I think. One thing, I wonder if tragedy might be a good rite of passage in a way. Or maybe not tragedy, but pain. Like kind of what Rich went through with boiling water back in the day. I wonder, like things that just kind of toughen you up. Anyway, what I'm curious about is, when are you ready for a rite of passage? So I got started with the pickup thing when I was in my early 20s. I didn't hate it, but it quickly made me realize that it's just not worth it. I ended up chasing girls for pretty much no reason, and it kind of built my life around the whole thing, and it's kind of stalling out. So I wonder, how do you kind of figure out, how do you reassess your purpose, and when is it too late maybe to take because you kind of want to stay the course and keep putting money in the bank. You don't want to take that hit maybe, whether that means going back to school, doing a little bit of traveling, something, but when do you know you got to do that and make a change?
Good call, John. Thanks for calling into the show. Richard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start by saying that, I've had a number of items of trauma in my life. Started as a toddler when I pulled a kettle of boiling water on myself, and I got third-degree burns on my arms and chest and neck, and kind of dealing with reconciling that, going through my childhood and teenage years, and the unplugging from the conditioning that I subscribed to up until about 2 or 3 years ago, which didn't serve me. It didn't serve me in life, in business, with the creation of wealth, with women. It definitely is trauma that pushes men to seek information that allows them to update their beliefs. I had a private conversation with Sean Smith. Those of you that have watched the Red Man Group before know who he is. He's a clinical psychologist from Colorado. And we were talking about how your safe world theory can shatter. And this was a private conversation that we had together, so I'll share it with you guys. Basically, what I had going on in my life after my divorce, after the legislative passing of a new bill in Ontario that changed the way that I'd operate a business, which was a fucking nightmare. After the breakup with, the single mom, after the divorce, you end up, or some guys do anyway, and I did, where it's like I had all the symptoms of PTSD, recurring nightmares, inability to sleep, inability to focus, can't go to places that you've been to before that create recurring memories, blah, blah, blah. So for some men, it's significant trauma that can move them to that rite of passage that lets them let go of the old shit that wasn't serving them and saying, okay, let's take this belief system that sucks, unplug it, drop it over here, take a new one that might serve me better, plug it in and make new choices and see what the results look like from there. So that was my experience with my own rite of passage with trauma or even PTSD and the shattering of my own belief system. I think maybe one time we'll have Sean talk about that on one of these broadcasts. I think it's a really profound subject matter. But Donovan, you wanted to go?
Yeah, listen, interestingly enough, my rite of passage didn't come until I was 31. I lived a great life. And I mean, my folks split up and my mom cheated on my dad. But honestly, like when I think about my childhood was wonderful. I got to live in Hawaii twice. I got to live in Washington State, Oklahoma, California, Georgia, New York, North Carolina, New Jersey. I got to live everywhere. I got to see a bunch of great things. I was a straight A student in school. I went to a great college. Even when I got married at the age of 24, I still had these rose-colored glasses on. And even after my divorce, I still didn't really know that life was pain, like becoming a man was pain. It wasn't until I dated who I call Amy. I've talked about her, the worst heartbreak of my life. After I went through that bullshit, that's when I became a man. That is the worst. I'm going to tell you what, man. And a lot of guys may think, well, Donovan, that's not the case. And it shouldn't be. No. I'm telling you right now, the worst emotional pain I've ever felt in my life was when I asked Amy if she cheated on me, and she told me she did. It was like I felt it from spine to sternum, man. And after that experience, I got hooked on pain pills. I was doing cocaine, and finally, when I got kicked out of the state, the quasi crack house I was living in, the little Jamaican guy comes in and says, "You don't live here. You got to be out of here by 9:00 the next morning, or the sheriff is going to come and remove you." My brother sent me a bus ticket and $10 to eat on the way to Atlanta. That's when I really became a man. And then of course 6 to 7 months later, I land in Vegas. A month after that, I found the red pill. But that's when I became a man, was that emotional trauma. And I think every man, for Elliot, it was learning to lift weights at 14 years old, putting stress on the body or the mind and coming through it. I think that is sort of your automatic rite of passage. Elliot got his when he was 14. I got mine when I was 31 years old. I think it happens for different people at different times.
Yeah, and it shows, and I think it's cyclical also too, because at various stages we need a new initiation.
Yes, wow, good point.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like I've got a post out called "Being Zeroed Out," and it was sort of born of this idea of so many guys these days are simply not prepared to be zeroed out, to have all of their, what they think is their relational equity or their life equity, to be reduced to zero, to be reduced to nothing. Like the guys in the Great Depression who had their bank accounts go from being like, almost millionaires to zero. They're jumping out of windows because they can't foresee a life beyond beyond having that money, beyond having what they put all of their energy into. And I see a lot of guys, I work with a lot of guys like this who are zeroed out, and it's usually that zeroing out that pushes them into a new stage of life or something new. And I think that, honestly, human beings cannot be content with anything. I think the state of being is really discontent, and how you deal with that discontent is up to you. You can deal with it creatively or you can deal with it destructively. And I think far too many guys deal with it destructively right now. As far as my own unplugging and as far as my own, I guess, rites of passage, I think I discussed this last week on the Dangerous Women podcast when I was talking about me being with this borderline personality disorder girlfriend that I had, and then making that decision not to go to one room over here, but to go to the other room over here, or go out the door and leave that life and literally symbolically walking out the other door and getting away from all of that. That was a rite of passage for me. Now, did I have a lot more growing to do after that? I certainly wasn't red pill Rollo Tomasi as soon as I walked through that door. It took a lot more. It's not just, I think one thing that needs to be clarified here is that once you've gone through this rites of passage that you believe is going from one personality, shedding your skin, and then going on to the next personality, you don't just do that in the blink of an eye. Okay. You have to build yourself into that. But that point of demarcation, that rite, that ritual where you're moving from the old into the new is very, very important. But understand that that's just the beginning. That's just where you have, that's just the decision-making point. That's not the actual building point into what it is that you want to become. You want to be somebody else. So that's very important. I think also coming to that point, unfortunately, for a lot of guys, it has to be a trauma. It has to be a traumatic experience. It has to be something that rattles you. Somebody has to die in some cases. And sometimes I think that one of the reasons that we see men killing themselves at 5 times the rate of women right now is because they can't see a future life with them beyond their zeroing out, beyond that trauma. So what do? They either kill themselves or they kill themselves along with their wife and who's leaving them and taking their 3 children with them. That's why you see stories like that. And we don't want to talk about that. We want to say that that's toxic masculinity. And if it just was better gun control, and if it was just better, if men weren't quite so toxically masculine, then they wouldn't kill themselves. Well, no, these guys are doing exactly what they've been taught as emotional, in their emotional blue pill conditioning has taught them to be emotional, to express their emotions. And you know how these men express their emotions? They do so with a gun. They do so, and we kill themselves, or they hang themselves like Anthony Bourdain. They make a statement or an artistic project out of it to say, hey, look, I got zeroed out and I couldn't go on. I couldn't see a future beyond, I couldn't live without her. I had one itis so bad that I couldn't live without her. She was my one and she's gone. And now I'm zeroed out to the point where this trauma is hurting me so bad that I don't see a future, and therefore I'm done. That's what I'm trying to get guys to avoid. That's why the red pill awareness is there, so that you can see that there is another life, that there is more hope in a red pill paradigm. But for you to get to that red pill paradigm and live in that red pill aware life, you have to kill off that beta. You have to kill off that blue pill stuff, and you can't go back to it. You can't keep clinging to it. You can't go and say, I know all this red pill aware stuff. This is great. Now I can go back to my blue pill shit, and I can get my dream girl, and I can live out all these blue pill ideals. No, you have to put that away, and you have to give up hope on that blue pill bullshit that has been a lie, that has been your life for so fucking long. Right. And now you are a red pill guy, and you have even greater hope and greater opportunity because the blinders are off. You can see, and here's the thing, is you have responsibility for that. You have responsibility on yourself to say, you know what, I'm aware now, and I got no one to blame but myself, because I can't say it was that blue pill conditioning anymore, because I have now transitioned.
No excuses, man. You have the information. What you do with it, and what you do with it is up to you. This is why I have little respect for these bottom dwelling MGTOWs. These guys know the sexual marketplace is fucked up, but they choose to check out.